So I got this new stone setting vise that I'm going to use with this polyplastic material to set my stone. So this is the first time I'm using this vise. So what I've done is I've melted my plastic and I'm now positioning it in the vise, so then I can set my bezel in the plastic and it can harden around the bezel and provide me a good base to be able to set my stone in the bezel. So now I've got the bezel in the polyplastic and it's still very pliable. So I'm going to go ahead and get it how I like it and then let it sit and harden. Well, now that my polyplastic is hardened, I'm ready to start setting the stone. So now I'm using my bezel roller to go ahead and push these sides against the stone to hold it in place. I'm starting with the corners and getting them pushed down. Now I'm having a little bit of trouble on this side because I let the stone sink too far into the polyplastic and did not give myself enough room to get a good angle to push the bezel down. So that's something I'll note for next time, is make sure you leave yourself enough space to be able to push the bezel around the stone. Okay, now I'm going to switch to my bezel pusher to just get that bezel edge a little tighter around the stone. Now I'm going to use my burnishing tool just to go over the edges and get them smoothed out once I've finished using the bezel pusher. Now that I've finished setting my stone, I can go ahead and remove the polyplastic from the vise. However, it's still very hard, so I'm going to have to remelt it to get the bezel out of the plastic. Once it's melted, I can go ahead and bend it and remove my bezel from the plastic. Now that it's out of the plastic, it's ready for me to go ahead and clean it up, and then go ahead and put a final polish on it. Now I'm going to go ahead and use my Fordham tool with my white silicone sanding disc to clean the edges of the bezel up where I've pressed with my bezel pusher to remove any little dents or dings and just really get it smoothed out. Now that I've got it nice and smooth, I'm going to go ahead and remove my silicone disc and then grab my white Hilux polish and give it a nice shiny finish. Now I'm using my polishing attachment for my Fordham tool, and I'll just go ahead and get a little bit of the polish right on the brush so it's ready to polish the bezel. Now before I polish, I like to use these little finger protectors to go on my fingers to protect them when polishing or sanding. Now I'll go ahead with the polishing tool and just smooth out along the edges of the bezel till I get a nice shiny finish. At this point, I think it's looking pretty good. Now I'll go ahead and get it cleaned up with some soap and water. This is what it looks like once it's cleaned up. It's got a nice shiny finish, ready to have a chain attached to it.